There's a moment somewhere in your 50s when life becomes quieter in the strangest way. The children move into their own orbit, work becomes less of a social factory, the calendar loses its school events and sport days, and suddenly friendships don't just happen because life forces you into the same room. Nobody warns you if you don't keep building friendships after 50. Loneliness doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It arrives like moss, slowly, quietly, and only noticeable once it's spread. Last Friday, our group gathers around the table to play board games. It looked ordinary: snacks, drink, teasing, and a fair amount of competitive commentary. But the truth is this: these events are no longer entertainment, they are investments. The bank balance of friendships. Friendships in our 20s, 30s are accidental. We have school gates, workplace canteens, sports sidelines, children's birthday parties, and shared products doing the heavy lifting. Proximity creates connection without much strategy. After 50, it doesn't work like that anymore. Proximity becomes intentional. Invitation matter. Efforts matter. Showing up matters. Friendship becomes a kind of bank balance. Deposits are invitations, time, showing up, remembering, checking in, listening, forgiving, and being willing to initiate. Withdrawals are favors, support, practical help, emotional learning, and the moment where you need others to carry you. It is not a perfect metaphor, but it holds a truth. You cannot make withdrawals from your accounts if you never deposit into it. And you cannot continually withdraw without eventually going into relational overdraft. You cannot make withdrawals from your account you never deposit into, and you cannot continually withdraw without eventually going into relational overdraft. If friendships are so good for us, why do so many people drift into isolation? Because isolation is so convenient. There's no parking, no emotional admin, no hosting, no dishes. It's easy and low friction. But the things that make life meaningful are rarely convenient things. And then there's vulnerability. Making new friends after 50 requires courage. It asks us to initiate, to risk a bit of awkward, to open space in our lives again. Research backs this up. Adults are far less likely to build new friendships after midlife unless there is a shared context, like sport clubs, volunteering, hobby groups, faith communities, or workplace. Without those containers, connection becomes a DIY product, and many of us don't know where to start. New friendships don't have expiry dates. One of the biggest myths about friendships later in life is that it should be built on history, that the strongest friendships are the ones we had since school or early adulthood. I don't have any left. But what if that is not true? New friendships can be lighter, less entangled with old versions of ourselves, more aligned with who we are now, more intentional and surprisingly deep. Our group is mostly newer friendships, and yet there is a sense of belonging that feels earned rather than inherited. We all showed up. Someone initiated, someone invited, and someone said yes. Belonging grows out of sense of small mutual act. What happens if we don't invest? The alternative to investment is not dramatic, it's subtle. Without friendships, the weeks bleed into each other. There's nobody to witness our life. Nobody challenges our thinking. Nobody draws us out of our routine. Nobody notices if we disappear for a bit. Humans require witnesses. We are not built for solitary processing. We need someone to laugh at the absurdity, someone to ask how the doctor's appointment went, someone to tell us we've been now ridiculous, and someone to say, come for dinner, even when we say no at first. Isolation takes things away quietly. Joy, accountability, human perspective, and softness. The strangest gift of building friendship after 50 is that the benefits compound with time. Psychology and longevity research keep repeating the same findings. People with strong social ties live longer. Friendship buffers cognitive decline. Social support reduces anxiety and stress. Laughter and shared experiences protect against depression. Belonging strengthens emotional resilience. These are not soft benefits, they are protective factors, as important as exercise, sleep, and nutrition. Friendship is not a hobby, it is a form of social wealth. When we gathered around the table on Friday night, we weren't aware that we were making deposit. We were laughing about the rules, negotiating snacks, complaining about someone's strategy, and accusing each other lightly of cheating. But afterwards, we all said some version of the same thing. We needed this. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because nothing dramatic happened. The evening was a reminder that life is richer when it is shareable. Friendship prepares us for the hard seasons. The episode you will see next explore the immovable ones, the people we love who refuse to join the table, who resist change, who shut the doors and insist they are fine. Friendship don't prevent that, but they give us a buffer, a support structure, and sometimes the gentle nudge that gets us through those harder stories. We cannot control whether others change, but we can control whether we remain connected. If you are over 50, friendship won't fall out of the sky. They won't maintain themselves. They require initiative, mutual and small steady deposit. But here is the beautiful part. New friendships don't have expiry dates. You can build connection at 50, 60, 70, 80 and beyond. And sometimes all it takes is 4 chairs, a board game, and someone willing to go first. Thank you for watching.